When you look at the changes over several centuries, they are quite dramatic. Here, for example, is the chaining of books in a library, and now we're talking about open educational resources. This is the pilot called Otter at Leicester. However, many of the recent changes in the Tree of Learning environments have been so rapid and dramatic. I refer, of course, to the connections between people created by computer network communications, the hardware, the software, and yet the tree has stood firm throughout it all, hardly bending in the wind of change. Most of the recorded commentary throughout the recent period of the tree is of the first of something. Hold your breath, first cyber cafe, first browser, multi-user game, Smiley, search engine, online community, Wikipedia entry, first .com failure, first YouTube video. Yeah, only 4 years ago. These are the new little twiglets on our tree of learning, but there are many of them. Key question, is informal learning finding itself the most powerful niche in the tree, possibly threatening and blocking out some of the other more formal branches? For a long time, work-based learning has been on the job or off-job training sessions. But now, with TechnoShine, the work-based learning branch is more personal, more contextual, more relevant, more distributed, less time-dependent, more integrated, more ambient, more knowledge-sharing, more contributory. All these things make the branches around work-based learning a little greener, a little fresher. And of course, now we come to universities. Do you know, kings that ruled in the past as the tree was growing, feudal lords with vassals, guilds with monopolies are gone. But 70 universities in Europe, however, are still in the same locations, with the same buildings, with professors and students doing much the same things, and with governance carried on in much the same ways. The British Library, however, is starting to move on. The British Library is one of the great research libraries of the world, holding 150 million physical items in all the common languages and formats of the world. But TechnoShine has resulted in the British Library's ability, sorry, I'll go back there, has resulted in the British Library's ability to digitalise large quantities of text and images and make them available over the web, transforming ways of working in research. More recently, they've entered the world of mass digitalisation of newspapers and books, so far digitalising 25 million pages, dating from the early 17th century onwards. But we, those of us in education, are only just starting to develop learning design that truly exploits these fabulous resources for higher education. Just want to have a little look now at the schools, the one you saw a preview of just then. Up in the top left-hand corner, this is Professor Sugata Mitra's work at the University of Newcastle. He spent the last 10 years looking at how children in rural India can teach themselves to use the internet if a computer set into a wall with a protective glass screen over the monitor and access to a trackpad is provided free of charge in a public place. He calls the resultant learning self-organising education. He discovered that children aged 6 to 13 anywhere with any language will learn to browse on their own. A new species of learner developing, perhaps. Elsewhere, using formal education with learner-owned handheld devices such as games consoles, smartphones, netbooks, connected to the internet, are altering the experience of learners and the practices of children and their teachers. Successful deployment of such devices can have powerful, beneficial effects on learning, and there are many examples of excellent practice. But the different branches of education rarely learn from each other and to tackle challenges that they have in common. Meanwhile, of course, the learners jump continuously between the branches, typically using techno-shine to light their way. I'm sure Elizabeth Goodman, who is speaking a little later in this session, will tell you much more about schools, assistive technologies and lifelong learning, and I hope she'll expand some of the branches on the tree. But I want to focus a little more on learners and how they are evolving. Now, I like this quote, see what you think. In times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned, that's us, find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. So I'm handing you over to someone who is more than able to represent the learners. So over to you, Aaron.